Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to another video. Today we're talking about the big breaking news coming out of Nottingham Forest that they have decided to extend the contract of manager Steve Cooper until 2025. It's a news story that I think, given the situation surrounding Nottingham Forest right now, given the scenario of Nottingham Forest right now, and given all the talk that had gone before this news story actually broke, came as a bit of a surprise to most people, including, of course, yours truly, who definitely wasn't expecting this kind of news to break. In this video, we're going to be talking about Steve Cooper, about Nottingham Forest, where they could go at the going forward in this season and everything along those lines. But before we do and go any further, I would like to remind you to please like the video and also subscribe if you're new. Both things are always incredibly greatly appreciated. And for now, let's talk about Steve Cooper, who has extended his contract with Nottingham Forest today till the year 2025. Look, it's a bit surprising. I don't think I'm the only one person here that actually saw this bit of a plot twist coming, because the talk beforehand seemed to suggest that Steve Cooper was heading towards the exit door. He was in very hot water. He was coming under fire because of obviously the situation surrounding Nottingham Forest so far this season. We know that obviously Forest signed a lot of new players in the summer, and they had to, really, because of the situation that they were left with in last season's championship, in which a lot of their players were coming towards the end of their contracts or were on loan. So they had to basically completely shake up and change the entirety of their squad, and they obviously spent a hell of a lot of money to do that. And then obviously it's not exactly panned out, and some would say it's not surprising. Some would say that signing 20 odd different players or whatever it was, that was completely ridiculous, and that not working isn't a surprise whatsoever. And to an extent, yes, they are right. I don't think it's ever really been done before, especially not in the Premier League, at least anyway, to an extent where it has worked. And it is always going to take time for the players to gel and get used to each other and get used to the style of play and everything. But I thought the majority of the signings were decent enough and were smart enough signings that I thought maybe could gel right away and maybe could settle into Forest's system right away. And maybe there are a few that have done that, but it hasn't obviously worked out as a collective and as a unit so far. And obviously it's got to a point now where, you know, we're 8 or 9 games into the new season and Forest have only won one, and they've lost many, and maybe I think drew 1 or 2, but they are sat rock bottom of the Premier League table. And obviously Leicester, the defeat against Leicester on Monday night, that emphatic 4-0 defeat, hasn't helped things. It really hasn't. And like I say, the talk from that point, even the talk before the game, was that Steve Cooper was coming under increasing amounts of pressure to deliver results. And given the way that Forest have operated in the past, you wouldn't have put it past them to have obviously gone on to give Cooper the axe, so to speak, and obviously give him the sack. Fast forward to today, though, that hasn't happened. Instead, Forest have decided to offer him a new deal, and that new deal has been taken up by the manager, and he is set to stay on until at least 2025, if obviously he is to see out his contract. Look, we know that Cooper performed miracles last season, seemingly. We know that obviously he took charge at Forest after 7 games gone in the championship. They sat rock bottom then. They hadn't won a single game. Relegation battle looked very much on for Forest that season, and somehow miraculously he turned things around very quickly and managed to get them to a playoff place, and then ultimately went on to actually win the entirety of the playoffs, get Forest promoted to the Premier League, and get them back into England's top flight division for the first time in 23 years. A miraculous achievement, especially considering where Forest were when he took charge. And then, like I say, things just haven't exactly worked out in the Premier League, and a lot of that is down to obviously the vast change in their squad. I think a lot of it is down to some of the tactics maybe being a bit too gung-ho at times, But what I have noticed about Forest is that sometimes they play some nice and attractive stuff going forward, but defensively they are very much all over the place. And often I see that once they concede one goal, the floodgates kind of open, and that is exactly what we saw against the likes of Manchester City. We saw that against Fulham, and we saw that obviously Monday night against Leicester, when Leicester eventually did go on to take the lead, and then of course went on to double their lead mere minutes later. Look, what I can say about this, and what I will say, is that this is actually quite refreshing. You know, there are cases of teams doubling down on their managers and giving them another chance and so on and so forth. The one that instantly springs to my mind is Ralph Hasenhüttl at Southampton, for example. It would have been very easy for Southampton to have sacked Ralph Hasenhüttl when they lost 9-0 to Leicester a few years ago. It would have been even easier for them to have sacked Ralph Hasenhüttl after another 9-0 defeat against Manchester United a year or so ago. But it didn't happen, and you know, whether you think that he's the right man or not, it was quite refreshing to see a club stand by their manager like that, and stand by the kind of direction they would hope to be going in, and the direction that they have been going in. They kind of owe it to the manager for what they've achieved. And again, it's sort of similar here, because Cooper was the guy who came in 7 games into a season without Forest winning a single game. They were very low on morale, low on everything. They were poor. And he came in and he changed everything around instantly. And he got results on the pitch. And that's why he got the team playing well again, to a point where they could be in contention for promotion, which they ultimately achieved. Again, you look at this season and you think, rock bottom of the Premier League, whole host of new faces and new names coming into the squad. Could even be more in January, depending on how that transfer window goes. And obviously with Forest's current position, you wouldn't bet against Forest not looking into the transfer market, maybe to try and bring in someone new, at least one other fresh face or whatever. But obviously it was going to take time. It was going to take time for this whole new project to sort of take lift off and to gel together and everything. So I can understand it from that point of view, but like I said, I could have also easily understood it if they were to have given him the sack straight away, because that's just how football is. It's a results-based business. The times of the Sir Alex Fergusons and the Arsene Wengers of having longevity reigns are pretty much over, and you're probably going to get about half of that time at least. You know, you've got Jurgen Klopp and Pep Guardiola as two top managers in the Premier League with obviously very long reigns as managers. You're very rarely going to get that now, simply for the reason that it's a results-based business. There's a lot more money at stake than there was years ago. It would have been very, very easy for Forest to have just sacked Cooper as it was. Thank you for your time. Thank you for getting us to where we want to be, but we want to go in a different direction now. Very kind of refreshing, I guess you'd say, to kind of see that and to kind of watch that unfold before your very eyes, because, you know, there are teams like Watford out there who would chop and change their manager the moment they sense that things are going wrong. They'd already done it this season already, and I would imagine that if things continued downward spiral for them, they would do it again and again and again until they get it right and they get promoted again, and then they'll go in that kind of cycle. We've known Forest to do that. Like I say, Forest are very much known for doing that over the years, to try and get them back to the Premier League. And now that they've managed to find a manager who managed to achieve that, it seems that they've given him their backing. And I think that, like I say, considering the amount of signings that were signed, given the money that was thrown around, obviously there was going to be increasing amount of scrutiny, and him being put under the microscope more and more as obviously time progressed. But you had to give him time. There was no way you could give him that amount of money with that amount of new faces coming into the squad and not giving him time. So I do kind of understand it from that respect. As far as where Forest can go from this season, look, it's a massive game Monday night. It's a proper Midlands clash between them and Aston Villa. Another manager in Steven Gerrard that is increasing hot water as well. you'd imagine that if Forest managed to get a victory there, that could be the opposite effect for Gerrard, and that could put him obviously on the chopping block, so to speak. So it's a massive game. Forest obviously need to win to try and give them boost the morale, boost the confidence, and obviously more points on the board to try and help them lift off the bottom of the table. Aston Villa obviously need it because they're going to walk into that game as the favourites. They have to start putting results and performances together. It's a massive, massive game on Monday night, and maybe if the players are on board with Steve Cooper, obviously it's at the City ground, so you would imagine that the Forest fans are going to be very, very loud on Monday night. It might just give them that little bit of a boost in helping the team get across the finish line, and maybe they can stun Steven Gerrard's side and Villa on Monday night and get a very well-earned victory, if that is obviously to be the case. But it's going to be a big battle on Monday night at the City ground between these two. But what we do know is that Steve Cooper has signed a new deal with Nottingham Forest till 2025, putting an end to the speculation that his head was on the chopping block at Forest. A very intriguing story nonetheless here. I've said my piece on it. As I always say, these are just the thoughts, comments, opinions, predictions, feelings, whatever you want to call it. This guy, I want to know what you guys think. What do you make of the news that Steve Cooper has signed a new deal with Nottingham Forest? Forest fans, are you happy with this news? Are you unhappy? What are your own thoughts, your comments, opinions, predictions, feelings, whatever you want to call it on this particular subject? I'd love to know down below in the comment section. Neutral fans, rival fans, also get involved as well. I'd love to know your thoughts and comments on this particular news story as well. But otherwise, hit that like button on the way out. If you enjoyed the video, subscribe if you're new or want to see more content like this. Both things are always and forever greatly appreciated. And as always, thank you all so much for watching and listening. I've been Fletch. This has been another Fletch Talks video, and I will see this with you all again soon in another video.